Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Drew and you're once again watching Drew the Theme Park Dude. Today's video I'll be talking about how Disney could fix Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at both Hollywood Studios and Disneyland Park. Before I begin, it would mean a lot if you could hit that subscribe button as well as the like button to support the channel. Now, off to the video. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is the largest themed land Disney has ever created based on a single IP. Currently, 2 of these lands exist and both opened in 2019, one inside Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World and also the original Disneyland Park. When it opened, it was met with a mixed reception as only one of the rides was open, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, and a lot of the other experiences that were promised never came to life. This includes the countless number of aliens and droids guests were going to be able to encounter. There was also plans for a third ride themed around riding a bantha throughout the land, but that was scrapped due to capacity reasons. A full table service restaurant experience was also included. And for lots of fans, including myself, we were all really disappointed in the original planet designed for the land but 2. Instead of having guests go to a beloved planet such as Tatooine, Endor, or even Hoth, they set the land around some random generic trade village. Only characters featured are from the controversial sequel films, so no meeting Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker. Chewbacca is the only character a person will even recognize if they haven't seen the newer movies. Luckily, over in California, this is beginning to change with Boba Fett, Fennec, Mandalorian, Grogu, Hera, Ahsoka, and Chopper all making appearances, but most of them are also from the newer series and films out on Disney+. And here in Walt Disney World, we have gotten Mandalorian and Grogu, but that was only after tons of fans had a huge uproar on social media when it was announced it was going to Disneyland, to then eventually have Josh D'Amaro reveal it was coming to Walt Disney World at D23 Expo. Now, this land was not a complete disappointment. While there were some neat experiences that came with the land, such as the insanely expensive lightsaber build experience at Sabi's Workshop, which is really cool if you have the money. I got to do it for my birthday a few years ago, and it was worth it for me as a fan, but since then they also raised the price by like $50, so now it's like $150, I think, almost, to make your own lightsaber. Pretty crazy, but yeah, really cool experience if you can afford it. They have a life-size Millennium Falcon ship, which is really neat, like you were seeing in that video. And the walking around the village is neat, even though it's not a recognizable village. Like, there's going to be some recognizable stuff, like Chewbacca, or the Stormtroopers, or some of the characters if you've seen the new movies, or the Millennium Falcon, or some of the ships. But in general, like, this could just be a random space land. I mean, if you took all that out, because, like, they're not recognizable buildings, they're not recognizable rockwork, there's no giant cave that you can recognize from Empire Strikes Back or anything. But Oga's Cantina is pretty cool, which features the TJ-R3X animatronic, but the drinks themselves aren't the best. And, there's some cool drink tarts that have, like, these little sodas that are themed around Star Wars, so that's pretty cool. The main attraction, Rise of Resistance, which didn't open until about 6 months after the land, was very popular upon opening and required a virtual queue to ride. This ride makes the entire park of Hollywood Studios or Disneyland worth going to. It is the best ride I've ever experienced at any theme park in the world. That ride alone makes Galaxy's Edge have all of its issues basically not matter because of that ride. There's nothing like it. The immersion is unmatched, and the build up to the actual ride portion is like another attraction on its own. Now, here's exactly how I would save the land. First, get rid of the storyline, where the land strictly is set within the time frame of in between Episodes 8, The Last Jedi, and Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. This limits the intended audience and amount of characters you can have walking around. The average day guest does not care if they see Obi-Wan Kenobi walking around with the Mandalorian. Avengers Campus lands, found at Disney's California Adventure and Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, do this perfectly. They don't care if they have Steve Rogers Captain America or Sam Wilson Captain America near each other, or even interacting with each other. They have this multiverse thing, which I get Star Wars doesn't have that, but back when they did Star Wars Weekends at Hollywood Studios, it was perfect. It was fine. They had, Boba Fett and Jabba the Hutt and all next to Rey. I mean, it doesn't really, they don't care. And, I mean, it was a really cool thing to have. And another way that I would fix it, and this is a long-rumored attraction. Now, this could still happen in Phase 2, but as Disney, I think, is focusing on other areas of the park right now, I don't think this is top of their list, and it's just a rumor. But Muppet Vision and that whole Central Park Muppet area, I believe, was designed as an expansion pad, at least for Hollywood Studios. Over in Disneyland, it's still going to be a little bit harder to expand because there's not a ton of expansion room, at least near Galaxy's Edge. So this would probably be a Walt Disney World Hollywood Studios exclusive, but a Mandalorian roller coaster. Now, this is a rumor that I saw from DSNY Newscast and also across X or Twitter. And basically, you would get on the Mandalorian motorbike with Grogu, and it would be very similar to a ride like Hagrid's. and it would be located in where Muppet Vision 3D is in that area. And it's a pretty big area because they have some. And they would still be able to keep the bar area that they built in those new buildings because they would add the tunnel to basically just Muppet. So they would still have that street that you go into from back to the left or to the right of Minnie Key and Maze Runway Railway. You would still have that pathway, but now instead of going directly into that tunnel, there'd be maybe some trees or some grass or something to kind of block vision, and maybe some rocks, and then there'd be another tunnel that would take you to where Muppet Vision is, and it would be a Mandalorian themed area. I'm sure this will probably depend on the success of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that's announced to be coming soon, but this roller coaster I feel like would be similar to Hagrid's, and you would go around on your very own Mandalorian motorbike, and you'd probably have some mission, you'd see some animatronics. Maybe if they could combine some technology that they used for Rise of Resistance, they could be stuff shooting at you, and you could be shooting back at stuff. Maybe it could be interactive. I don't know. I just think Galaxy's Edge needs another big ride because Rise of Resistance is great, but it's also a few years old now, and it still is my favorite ride at the resort. But I still think as a biggest property of Star Wars, and if they want to continue investing in Star Wars at the parks, doing another Star Wars based ride, I think is for the best. And even if that means getting rid of Star Tours and replacing it with something else because you have too many Star Wars rides, that's fine. Now, moving on, I also think this area should have special events. So, celebrate Life Day, which is their version of Christmas, and have like a whole festival. Do like a Jedi weekend where you have, I've seen like Jedi meetup with like the lightsabers, but do like an official one. Do Star Wars weekends again. Those were great at Hollywood Studios. I don't care if it doesn't fit with the storyline of the land, but do like an event that will draw people, even if it's specially ticketed. Like do an after-hours Star Wars event, call it like the Mega Fan event, even though if it's going to be paid, or maybe it's to hotel guests, maybe it's to Password, maybe it's Vacation Club, whatever, and maybe even do one for free for the public. And you just have these cool Star Wars characters walking around. You might be able to go over to where the Halcyon, aka Star Wars Hotel, which is no longer with us, but they might have put something over there. And yeah, I feel like just having something to bring life to this land, because they don't have the droids and aliens they promised were going to be walking around this land. Over at Disneyland they have R2-D2, luckily, and Chopper, and sometimes they'll have other droids, but there's no random alien or random droid just walking around, which is something that I feel like in a Star Wars land that's designed to be fully immersive, you need that. And now, moving on to the final thing that I would say, there's a lot of things that I could say, but this is just the final thing I have written down here, is more missions on Smuggler's Run. So when the ride was revealed at D23 Expo, Bob Iger actually said how there would be a possibility of having different missions added in the future. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately, just because this ride I feel like is just going to become outdated and they're going to replace it with something because it takes up a big amount of space. It's not super popular, and if you can see in this video right here, unless you're the pilot, it doesn't look that interesting. They're not showing that there's buttons over here. They are where you can press on the side if you're a gunner, but they don't really do anything. Engineer, you can press buttons to fix stuff, but doesn't really do anything because if you don't press it, it doesn't really matter. The only stuff that actually matters is if you're driving or not, and the left guy does left and right, and the right person goes up and down. And the issue with that is if you get a kid, which I guess in this video they got lucky and there isn't one, but if you have a young kid that's not really familiar with how to drive spaceships, or just really not know how to handle a lot of bumper cars basically, you will be hitting everything and you will have a very, very rough ride. And I've had that happen to me several times, especially when I do single rider, which is basically just guaranteed engineer spots. But, how could they fix it and add different missions? In Star Tours, they always update the screen. They're always adding new stuff that you travel to, so I don't see why you couldn't do this. It could even just be reskinned. It could be the same movement or the same story, where you stop here for a second. It's just a different environment. Maybe do it on Hoth, on an ice planet where you're trying to get some coaxium. Or maybe do it on, maybe the Mandalorian joins you and you see him with you. Because I believe that was also a rumored at one point, is where there would be a Mandalorian mission, which I know doesn't make sense with the Millennium Falcon, but who cares? It's fine. Nobody can. The average Star Wars fan does not care about that connectivity, and that's why I believe the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is so successful at Universal, because they don't care either. You can go, if you've seen the movies, Voldemort dies, but he's walking around, in the rides, and they have a lot of cool stuff over there. So I feel like if they could do something like that with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, I really feel like it would be very successful, and I think that's why it was struggling, is just because it's not connected. Overall, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is the most expensive addition Disney has ever done for a single park land, and I really think there's so much potential that was missed. And I really think there's still time to fix it too. I mean, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge isn't going anywhere. I mean, maybe they'll refresh some of the rides, maybe they'll refurb, Millennium Falcon and make it something, maybe they'll add something, but there's still time to fix this land. And I hope this video just gave you an idea about how I personally would fix it and just make it feel more like a Disney theme park land. I mean, one of the complaints with Avengers Campus was kind of like the blandness of the land, but that's something entirely different than the issues with this land. This land has it has really cool stuff. I mean, I love spaceships. You got spaceships. I mean, you have these cool looking structures. I know, maybe you could retheme part of it to the village from The Mandalorian. Maybe you could have some Tatooine part. Maybe you could paint some stuff and make it Hoth. I don't know, but if you could just make it more recognizable. And if you want to keep Batuu, you can, but just maybe make it like it's a greeting place for Star Wars people all across the universe, and just leave it at that, and you can still have these characters come in like Darth Vader walking around, with some stormtroopers, or just whatever. Just make it feel like a Star Wars land, because that's my biggest issue with Galaxy's Edge, is it doesn't feel like a Star Wars land. Now, thank you guys so much for watching and reaching the end of this video. If you enjoyed, please remember to leave a massive like and subscribe. Comment down below your ideas about how to fix this land, because I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about it. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day, everyone. See ya. Bye.